Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.
This review covers the Purple Haze 1940 Willys Coupe pickup. It's a 125 scale 2-in-1 kit from AMT, number 31221. Now, with a light body, a great stance, and a cheap price, the 1940 Willys cars were the go-to body style for drag racing in the 60s. Now, this kit was released many times over the years, and this model was re-released in 2001 as a reboxing of the 1987 Fat 40 kit. But now, he's been gone nearly 50 years, but he is still one of the most legendary guitarists of all time. Now, this kit also features some aftermarket Purple Haze decals by Gopher Racing Specialties, and some of the homemade decals I made for it as well. When you're done with the kit, she'll be about 6 3/4 inches long, 2.5 inches high, and 3 inches wide. Here are the contents of the kit. She's molded in yellow, chrome-plated parts, and some clear pieces with 2 metal axles and rubber vinyl tires. It also has decals, but this is my version of the open box review. It won't take you long. Just look at the parts. They're all there, and you're going to find there's about 100 of them. So this kit has 2 complete body styles. We'll be using a variety of adhesives, including epoxies, liquid cement, tube glue, white glue, and super glue for strength. So you'll also find that there'll be some nice looking decals in the kit, but you won't really be needing any of the setting solutions for those, unless you put these stripes on for the Fat 40 kit, in which case you will need them. Now, I didn't use the kit's decals, but I did use some of these outstanding kits from Gopher Racing Specialties with the gold tint to them. They are really nice, and the thickness is perfect. They adhere well. They're very good quality decals. Construction for this kit starts with the wheels and tires, and there are 3 separate sets of different diameters and thicknesses. There's some street rears there, and each has their own inner hubs. I was a little perplexed to find that the inner hubs for the deep mags or slicks there, racing slicks, had different size hub lengths on them. As you can see here, one of them is considerably shorter. I also noticed that the wheels fell right into the tires. They were trimmed to the point where they wouldn't stay. So I had to use some of the BSI rubber tire cement for those. First thing I did was I scuffed up the tread area, the surface there, to make it look more realistic. And then I went ahead and I cut off the tires lettering because they were pretty high. You could try to dry brush those, but I was going to use some aftermarket decals for mine. So I removed those carefully from the sidewalls. But as you can see here, the tires had decals applied to them, and they look really great. I also gave that a spray of flat clear to tone down the chrome on the inner wheel too. So here are the instructions for the engine components, and after a number of releases, I've noticed that the part numbering gets a little iffy. Sometimes they make mistakes, and you'll see here that part number 308 did not have one assigned to it. That's the back of the blower. But it also shows 2 part number 315s, but that's incorrect. The bottom diagram shows that should be part number 325, which is marked that way on the sprue. So grab these pieces out of the kit to start the blower and the intake there. The intake is split horizontally, and it's not chromed, which is a good thing because you'd have to do this if it was chromed anyway. So I went ahead, assembled the pieces, and then used some putty to smooth out that seam. Now, as you can see it mocked up here, it looks pretty good in place once it's together. Here are the other pieces for the block and the heads, etc., but we won't be installing the hose, radiator hose there at this time. Here's the engine mocked up with the transmission, and I've treated it to some black wash, as you can see, to give it a little definition, and mocked up the headers and of course the shoebox on top. Now the fan pulleys, they are gloss black, and the belts are flat black, and then there's black wash on the valve covers, etc., just so that you can see the pieces better. Here are the body pieces for the tilt front end, and we'll be gluing the inner fenders in there. And also it's time to start cleaning these up. There's of course the parting line there across the top of the fenders, and that extends horizontally towards the center. So scrape those off and smooth them out with some fine sandpaper. Same thing you'll find in the body section. There are some parting lines on that unit that go over across the drip rail, over the windows, and then back down the fenders. So clean those up and get them ready. I began to gather some of the light colored parts, and these will be painted with some of the Testors 1214 spray enamel yellow, and so I'll also be scratching off much of the chrome from this push unit here. This push bar goes typically in the back and is just used to put a race car into position. It also had some issues there with some sinks on it to fill and smooth over. Speaking of sink marks, there's a couple at the top of the hood on the rear of the coupe body there, and I also filled in the area where the bracket is glued onto the inside and front of the tilt unit. The seats are not a real good fit, and they've got some flash and sprue marks on them, so those will need to be assembled and then cleaned up. You'll actually have to do a little extra sanding on the seat backs up at the top where there's a mismatch there. I used some small clamps to keep those together for a minimal amount of filling on the sides to clean those off and get them ready for paint. Now these parts will be painted with some flat black primer. Notice the tape loop there, the black arrow indicates I'll use that to hold the part upside down to spray inside there. And then the rest of these pieces will be sprayed with the flat black primer, but the inset on the seats will be taped off so that it's not painted. Here are the pieces that are painted with the flat black primer. Also, as you notice, the inside of the interior and the exterior of the body and the tilt end, as well as the dashboard, were painted flat black. We're going to set those aside to dry, and the green tape on the inside will keep the exterior paint from getting overspray onto those. Gather up these parts as you see for the suspensions, and that chrome piece there, the differential, will be mostly removing the paint and just painting, the chrome, and then just painting that flat black like the rest of the chassis. Here is the underside of the chassis and frame. As you see, the part number is prominently printed right in the middle of the bottom there. It probably should be removed if you want a contest model. Also, pin marks, there's about 14 of them to address. There's a lot of chrome on this kit, and please remember you must scrape the chrome plating off for glue joints so that you get a good adhesion. Now you can go ahead and start the rear end here with the axle halves and the differential. That's one of the old quick change racing differentials. Now you can glue the rear springs into place. You can't get it wrong because one of them has a bracket attached to it and fits into that slot that you can see on the right. The black indicates where those are positioned. Then go ahead and you can put the axles through the spring slots there, and then you can glue the entire thing together all in one step so that you get proper alignment, which includes pointing the drive shaft down at an angle to be above the cross member there. We're assembling the suspension pieces prior to paint for strength, and for that matter, use some good strong super glue here to put these pieces together. You can see the springs and the front drop axle goes there on the front end. Everything fits together pretty well. In here you notice that the striped marks there indicate where the tie rod goes in. On the back side, it just fits into two small holes in front. Use super glue, and then of course the wheel backs go up onto the spindles in the front end. Once the glue is dry, you can go ahead and spray the entire unit with some medium gloss black paint or primer, which is what I did here, and then we save the shock absorbers to put those into place later. Those are painted yellow, and they go right into place, no issues. While the suspension is drying and the paint, we're going to turn our attention to exterior paint. So these are the two main colors that I use. It's a Candy Res Krylon and a Testors 1214 yellow spray. Now I tried it out, and you should always try out your paint and your primers to make sure they all work together. There's the Candy Res over black, and also a gold and a silver, and I wanted to get the best effect, so I went with the black. I felt that that gave me the best dark purplish looking color with a little brightness for good photographs. After a couple of coats of the purple paint, metallic paint dried, I removed the internal taping, and then I staged my decals. Now you'll notice here that there are some handmade or homemade decals that I put together for my Purple Haze special, including a couple that go on the seats. You may recognize those as the Jimi Hendrix cord. I applied some bare metal foil chrome to the dashboard. There's some horizontal lines there that look like a metal plate, so I went ahead and I just pushed that into position and trimmed off the excess. The steering wheel was chrome, so I left the chrome spokes, and then I just scraped the chrome off of the steering wheel itself. You see the black arrow points to the steering shaft, which will be glued into the steering wheel. Here are the next step of the components. You have the traction bars there. They were painted aluminum, along with the wheels that were done earlier. Now the push bar and both optional push bars were painted yellow, and so we'll be using those for this assembly. Later on, I figured out why those hubs were such different sizes for the outer wheels on the rear slicks. As it turns out, it looks like the tires and wheels were kind of an afterthought here. These tires had a inner hub, or inner wheel, I should say, that precludes the hubs studs there from touching anything. Actually, the hubs on the inner wheel, they rub against the backing plates that are on the axles, so the hubs never touch on the inside, which makes the drive shaft too short. So I actually replaced the rear drive shaft with a piece of 30 thousandths rod from Evergreen, and just made my own, which was 10 millimeters longer. I also replaced the front axle with some 3/64 rod. Oh yeah, that's correct, 3/64 inch rod, and made my own. I just painted that black except for the ends that I'll glue into the wheels. You see the rod glued into the one of the front wheels here. The rear wheels have been installed. Like I said, that axle is longer by 10 millimeters, but this is the same size. You could actually use the metal one, but they didn't seem to fit well into the holes for the hubs, so you either have to drill those out or take a chance of drilling through them. So I used the plastic rod, which was easily shaped and fit just right. It's the same length in the front. So go ahead and slide those through and put the wheels into position. Next, I added the traction bars, but as you can see, one of them seemed to be a little bit long. I don't know if it was flash or just in the molding, but nonetheless, at the point where they contact the back of the axle there, that little C shape, you just smooth that out a little bit with some sandpaper and make that a bit shorter where it was too long, and as you can see here, it straightens right out. To detail the interior, there's a lot going on here, so bear with me. Of course, as you see, the black portions were painted with the body color, except for that which was masked off, the yellow inside the interior and the inserts there. Now, the seats have, of course, the Jimi Hendrix cord decal on them, and then that was applied, and clear flat was sprayed on the interior pieces to dull the shine. Of course, there's your roll bar there, and the shifter got painted black at the base, and later on we'll show you purple for the shift knob. The gas pedal there had some of the blackening added to it, the black wash, to bring out those ribs, and the steering wheel was painted a gloss yellow. Now, there's a fire extinguisher here, which I thought was a good idea, because anybody who sings a song called "Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire" probably could use that. So the bracket was black on the extinguisher and red, of course, on the body. I left the top section, the handle, chrome. You can glue that to the back wall or really anywhere, and then install the a roll bar and the seats along with the shifter into the hole where it's located. And the steering column is basically placed into position about where it should be, and then finally glue the dash into the side inserts where the receivers, where that goes. Now we can go ahead and work on the interior by placing the body tub into that, and also the windows you see here, front and back. Use some white glue to go ahead and place the windows into position. You can put it up against the positive stops there where the window goes, and just lay that down into place. And still working with the body portion, we're going to install the interior tub. Just push that down into place over the hubs there, the receiving hubs, and there's some loops on the body shell itself. And then I use some epoxy glue to make sure that that thing stays perfectly in place. The radiator's been painted a medium gloss black, and the fuel cell there gets put together. At least it does not have a mold split in it. You put the two ends together on that. And then the engine, by the way, I painted gold because I saw some gold-colored Oldsmobile engines back in the 60s. So that's the color I chose. I also chose to make some of my own radiator hose out of solder. The stuff is just the same. I mean, you get the same diameter as what you're replacing. And then you can bend that into the perfect form for your model, and it goes right into position where you would have used the plastic ones, but it's easier to install because it's exactly the shape that you want it. Next, we'll add some pieces to the front tilt piece there, including the grille, the headlights, the bezels, and the caps there that are used for the tilt. The grill got a little bit of that black wash, that 50-50 mix of paint and thinner that seeps right into the recesses and gives it a good definition. Scrape a little bit of the paint from around the bezels and go ahead and install those into place too. The instructions show that you add some caps to where you see here the yellow hinges up front. At the bottom of the photo, but I decided to drill through all of those pieces and insert a rod for a good positive positioning of the hood after it goes over the top of the mailbox on the intake. So you see here that I've installed caps on the bottoms of the hinges area there. And also, you also see the 3/64 rod, which extends through there, which I'll use for my hinge. Here Here's another angle at that, and as you can see, it goes right through that front end and gives you a nice positive actual positioning for your hood. And the ends are trimmed off after you get it into position. The red arrows indicate the ends of the rods here, and then we're going to flare them. You just heat up a metal blade like an old hobby knife blade, and you flare them to keep that rod into position. You see the white spot there, that's the flare. Next, we'll add the engine and the mailbox, of course, on top of that. And we're going to install the headers at this time, because now we can align them, because the engine is perfectly aligned with the hood opening, and so now we know where that goes. From the top view now, you see that the engine is in place. It's mounted on the motor mounts up front and has quite a tilt to it upward at the front. That's the way this particular model was designed. But the red arrows here indicate where the glue can be applied to put the body onto the chassis. So scrape the paint off there if there's any overspray and glue that into position. Now we can scrape the glue away from the contact points on that rear push bar, and it will make for a barely legal bumper for the rear end of your vehicle. Earlier, the instructions show this safety hanger here for the drive shaft to make sure it doesn't drop off and catapult the car if that should break. But it goes into position now, not where they showed it. Once you have the drivetrain completely assembled, you can put that safety feature into position. Here are some of the last pieces to put into place. The radiator hoses have been shaped. They'll be painted flat black and then installed with some super glue now. And one thing about putting them into place now is that you know exactly where they're going to go. The door handles are there. They'll be the last two pieces installed with a tiny bit of glue on the ends. And I've also modified the optional push bars for the back end to make for makeshift Nerf bumperettes in the front, which gives it quite a nice visual appeal all around for the yellow accents against the purple paint. You'll have quite a few pieces left over. Most of these, of course, will belong to the pickup version of the car. I didn't use the metal axles, as I mentioned, and of course there's the inner wheels for the street fatties there. But there's a lot of nice options here, and you can have a different look for your vehicle. But that's it. Once you've got to this point, you can put those parts in your stash. Finally, you can add those tail lights. You need to paint those stoplight red on the ends. And I put the license plate into position along with my logo. And as you can see, she's finished. And if I were you, I'd buy one and put it on my shelf. All in all, however, this is not a bad kit. However, I would not call this a kit for the beginner. There are some issues with the kit, both instruction errors and issues with the wheels and tires. Also, the fit for the hood, although you could get away with their hinge system, I think that it needs a little bit of shoring up. And so, as you can see, this needs a little bit more expertise than the beginner would have. If you've got a few kits under your belt, you can build this successfully. But I also have noticed that if you build the pickup version, which of course the parts are included in the kit, you'll need even more skills, as I noticed the interior tub didn't fit well on a mock-up, putting that into position in the body. And also, of course, you've got a separate pieces for the bed, which makes that for some pretty interesting angles and construction. So it's a nice kit when you're done. It looks great on your shelf. Well then, Happy birthday, Jimmy. And as the old song goes, if there's a rock and roll heaven, I know they've got a heck of a band. Well, we hope you like this scale model premium quality kit review. And so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right hand of any of our reviews. But you can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and at our website, rightonreplicas.com. Thanks. This review is brought to you in part by Ryder's Hobby Shops, where the fun begins. Stop in to one of Ryder's 2 convenient Michigan locations where you'll find a full range of the latest hobby products, supplies, parts, tools, and paint. You'll find aisles and aisles of scale model kits, RC models, model rockets, Warhammer gaming, and railroading products. Stop in at Ryder's today and tell them Doug sent you.